All right. Okay, well, welcome to all of you. This is call number 2, rescheduled call number 2 because we had a real technical issue and last week. So I'm really glad that we were able to find a date and time that we could reconnect. And so this is call number 2 in order to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have now that you've been through, or that some of you have been through, the Discover Your Sacred Gifts digital online program. So we did start off the call last week. We got in about a half hour into it, and then unfortunately everything crashed at my end, and we've since gotten a booster set up on the roof of the house to increase the signal, and now it looks like we're going to have a great connection. Yay! So fun of technology, right, Brad? So I want to welcome to the call. We have Annette with us. Annette is part of Discover Your Sacred Gifts as well, and you guys are all getting to know her. And so Annette and I work together side by side, so I'm really glad that Annette is here as well. She's getting ready for a big trip. She's going to be leaving to head to Prince Edward Island in a couple of days to go live her dream of visiting the Anne of Green Gables area, which is just marvelous.
I should have brought my red wig.
Yeah, with your hat. Yeah, that's right, with your braid. And then also on the call live, we have with us Brad, and we have Susan here, and we have Claudia and Dan. So welcome to all of you as well, and welcome also to those of you that are listening to the recording as well. So we're really happy to have you here. So let's do a quick check-in and see where you're at now in terms of how far you've gotten through the program. Now, Brad, I know that you haven't, because you haven't yet downloaded the files, right?
No, I was aware that you could point and click for the individual ones. I just wanted to do it while I was traveling, and so therefore I wasn't able to finish it by this point. But I have gotten up to day 2, or however it's categorized, section 2.
Yes.
I'm right before the big shebang where you blow us up with all the gifts.
Okay. All right. And okay. So Brad, you've done the assessment then, the 120 statements, and have you totaled up your scores?
Yes.
Okay. And have you by any chance printed the sheet called your Sacred Gifts Key, where you can get the names of the gifts to align with your scores?
What section was that in? I was looking for that document right before.
Yeah, it's in section 3. In the program, we get you to listen to the description of all the gifts first, and then once you've done that, we have you then take your scores and drop them onto that sheet. But if you were wanting to do that and take a look at that now while we're talking, it will certainly make more sense to you, because it will actually align the name of the gifts with the scores that you have. So, if you're wanting to do that, you certainly can.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Great. And Susan, I know that you have completed the program, and we actually started our second scheduled call, really spending some lovely time with you and seeing where you're at. And so what's been coming up for you now since another week's gone by and you've completed the program? And what are your thoughts around what your sacred gifts are and what's happening?
It's instead of it just kind of not being labeled and more awareness on it, it's coming to me like, for instance, I just got done teaching class, and I made a clarification in my brain about how, like, I'm an introverted person, but I have to be extroverted, right? Because I teach class, I'm in front of people. When I'm in crowds, unless I have a big familiarity, I get shy, like you mentioned that you do. But I can speak in front of people. And I just, like, when I go to work out by myself, and I don't know whether this is just because it's habit, I typically work out with a bunch of people because I'm teaching all the time. And when I have to teach when I just work out by myself, sometimes, it's awesome because I get to be creative and make up new things and all that other stuff. But I feel like I might have more of that protagonist kind of personality trait, where to be up there and teaching. And the sacred gift of knowledge for me is like huge. It's just all of a sudden just started flooding into me, because if I could have a job just doing all of these courses and then reviewing them, or going to every Tony Robbins event and then reviewing them somehow, I would just love that, and then implement it somehow and teach other people things that, are in my world. that one, it just like like it's almost because you made me aware of these things. Like it's just like let's say if I bought a red car, I'd start to notice all the red cars.
Yes.
You know, so I've just started noticing a little bit more, and it kind of is making more sense to me.
Oh, nice. That's nice. You know, I got a testimonial that showed up. It wasn't even a testimonial. It was a post that I saw. A woman that was a student of this program in 2006. So that's how long ago, right? 12 years ago, she did the program, and then she revisited the program probably about 5 years ago, and she posted on Facebook. So she's now left Vancouver. She's living in Mexico. She is fully integrated into the culture. She realizes that her passion is, her gift of cultural integration has really been awakened, and now she is going to be traveling the world. You know, and so she posted, you know, imagine that, you know, the more you get into alignment with your gifts, the more you feel on purpose, and the more, you know, the more things start to work, right? So even though she first heard about it in 2006, it's been a journey for her as well in terms of, you know, really stepping into it. And also this gift of cultural integration was quite dormant for her, and now it's really come to the surface, and man, it didn't take her long to know it, and out she, you know, she left Vancouver and took off. And she's going to be traveling and really living in other cultures and learning, and then teaching what she knows already into those other cultures. So it's, you know, it can certainly, it is almost always a process, right? And the more
Yes.
you're around it, because we've brought you guys knowledge you never had. And so then when we give you this new information and these new teachings, it's only by being out there in the world and, you know, kind of living your life that then you start to see evidence of it. And then it starts to really make sense. You know, the evidence in yourself, but also evidence in others. So yeah, that's exactly the process, Susan.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah.
nice to hear.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Thank you. And Claudia, how about you? How are you doing in the program? Where are you at now?
So I have listened all the way to the Sacred Gift of Singleness. I did fill out the Sacred Gift inventory score sheet. So, and I put all the names of the gifts. So that's as far as I got.
Good. Okay. Thank you. And how's the experience for you so far, Claudia?
It's pretty good. I really like it. I like the fact that, you know, originally when I saw the gifts, I saw them in Rock's book. So I didn't really understand what they meant, but now it really clarified them. And I guess I've been able to identify some of my gifts.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. And we're going to we'll be coming back and looking at some individual ones so that you guys can talk about the ones that are really, you know, popping out for you. And hey, Dan, how about you? How are you doing in the program? Where are you at now?
I just completed part 1. I completed that a couple days ago.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of going through that. I know I heard you mentioned to Brad to kind of start inputting your scores that I did on the inventory score sheet. So I'm just kind of starting to do that right now on the Sacred Gifts Key.
Okay.
And then we'll see what we come up with here. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, good, because that'll, you know, in terms of just the conversation we're going to be having today, it'll certainly help if you've got an idea of which gifts align with the higher numbers that you have, for sure. But, you know, I still would absolutely encourage you guys to make sure that you do go back and listen to the gifts in section 2 being described as well, because it's not just the scores that we've had. Even on this call, I remember on the first call, there was one of the participants was saying that they had a higher score in one of them, and then when they listened to me describe it, they were like, no, they knew that it was like a skill, something they were good at, but it certainly wasn't, it isn't, you know, that it wasn't really a gift for them. So good. And I just want to come back to what Susan was saying about being an extrovert and an introvert. So I do teach about that, and in our live workshop we talk about being introverted, extroverted, and possibly an omnivert. And so the definition that I go with is might help clarify it a little bit, Susan. So an extrovert is when a person who is an extrovert, it's not about how they show up out there. So I'm very outgoing, and when I'm on stage, I'm highly animated, and I'm really present, and I'm very comfortable being on stage in front of however many people. An extrovert, typically, when they are tired and their tank feels empty, they need to go and be with people.
Oh, yeah,
So-
yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, so extroverts, they're the ones who they just need to refill and replenish. They need to go and be with people. And introverts like me, when I am done, or if my tank is empty and I need to recharge, I need to get away from people. And that's often the distinction for extroverts and introverts. Whereas often people think of it more as personality types, whereas certain personalities might be, the center of attention at a party and that type of thing, and they think of that as being extroverted. But it really is, what is it that you need to replenish you? And an extrovert might need to go to a party and be the center of the party, and that just fills them right back up again, right? And then the omnivert is the person who can get replenished in either one or the other, right? So, Brad, which do you think you are more of then, an extrovert or an introvert when you need to refill up your tank?
Well, that's interesting you picked on me to answer that. I'm extremely extroverted. I am energized by other people, but the only way that I believe that I can properly be present with people is if I'm first with myself to fill my cup. So I no longer go to others to fill my cup. I only go to others to give the overflow from my cup.
Nice, very nice. And how about you, Susan?
I'm an omnivert because there are times I just need to be completely away, and then there are other times that I'm like, okay, I got to go hang out with people. I got to be out in with them, and I got to get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both do it for me.
Right, great. And that can help to make that distinction of understanding when we're talking about sacred gifts. For example, somebody who has a gift of teaching or facilitating and they're totally comfortable being in front of people, then others might perceive them as being an extrovert, but that may not be the case. They may be a complete introvert, but just completely comfortable when they're in their gift. How about you, Annette? Which one are you, introvert, extrovert?
I lean more towards the introvert side, for sure. But I'm very much, I get filled up both ways. I think I'm somewhere, there's a middle ground. I'm not skewing really far on either side, but I lean more towards introvert. If I'm tired or I'm drained or my energy is low, what I really need is some time alone. And I love traveling by myself, and I like my own company. So yeah, so I do get filled up having time by myself.
Yeah, nice. And how about you, Dan?
I would be very similar to Annette. Actually, I'm introvert. If my tank's running low, I just need some time to myself to kind of gather my thoughts. Do what I need to do to re-energize. I do find sometimes though, if I'm running low for a couple days and I have an event that I have to go to that I can't say no to, and I do end up going there, and I'm with friends and family and that kind of thing, it does give me energy as well. But I would definitely lean more towards the introvert for the most part, though.
Oh, thank you. How about you, Claudia?
I am more like Susan, or I'm not sure if the pronunciation is correct, but omnivore. Sometimes because I do a lot of work by myself, so sometimes when I need to replenish my tank, I need to be out with people.
Nice. Good. So what I thought we would do is, or one of the things that we're going to do is field some questions from you before we really get into any one thing specific, is just really for you guys to have an opportunity to ask any questions you have of myself or Annette when it comes to, what you've done so far, what questions are coming up around either the gifts individually specifically or just questions in general. So if you've got a question, just give us a wave and we'll start there.
I have one. Like when you, Monique and Annette, found out, were introduced to this sacred gift concept, can you give us like a little journey, a little story of your journey of like where it led you and what the stepping stones were for you guys? And because like obviously this is brand new for all of us to find this out, and it's really cool to have the awareness, and not that you're ever going to know exactly where things are going to lead you, but it'd be nice to kind of hear your story I guess.
Okay. Well, I can start. Yeah, I'll start and then I'll hand it over to Annette. So for me, it was being introduced to the concept of spiritual gifts, which is a concept that is part of the teachings in the Christian church. And I was raised Catholic, and I went to Catholic elementary school, Catholic high school. I was married in the Catholic church, raised my kids in the Catholic school, never once heard about spiritual gifts. And I had heard some mention of certain gifts you might receive in baptism, but really I'm not kidding you when I tell you, I was in church every Sunday for over 40 years, and I don't know, somehow I missed that class. So when I heard about this concept of spiritual gifts, and in the Christian faith, it's referred to as God-given gifts, I was really fascinated and intrigued, and became connected to the Catherine of Siena Institute, and went and trained with them on gift discernment. And then I realized I really had a calling on my life to bring this teaching out to people, but to bring it in such a way that it would not be around any kind of religious doctrine, but that it would be a very practical. I'm a highly practical person. Anything I do, any course I take, any book I read, I need to make it applicable to my everyday life. And that's what I need to do with my clients when I'm working with them. So it was just given to me to do. That's the only way I can describe it. This was an assignment that was given to me by the universe to create a program where this concept could get out and reach the world, and allow people to understand that they have these amazing, extraordinary, unexplainable abilities within them, and to really create a program that would cross any barrier, that could reach anybody, that was not defined in a religious term. Having said that, I have taught this program I've taught it in religious settings. And then I started doing research because I was curious, well, is this a Christian thing? Well, then I started studying other great religions in the world and found that there was reference to this by different names in all in all the sort of top 7 religions. And also then started looking at, stepping out of the religious circle, but looking at the spiritual community. And for example, Oprah Winfrey, who is seen as a very spiritual person, we don't hear about any one particular, religion that she belongs to, but she always talks about, you've got to find your gift. You've got to find what your gift is, and you've got to get out there with your gift. And typically it's been spoken of in the singular, your gift. And when I was trained in gift discernment was where I understood that, we can have several gifts and not just one operating in us, and that typically most people do, and that at different times in their lives, different gifts may come to the surface. So that was kind of the journey on the creation of the program. But my personal journey, it just blew my mind wide open, because one of the things for me that I realized was this teaching gift that I had. And it had always been prevalent in my life, but I had actually made really big decisions in my life based on the fact that I did not understand I had a teaching gift. One of those decisions was in the 1990s when I was in network marketing. I loved to teach, and I didn't know it was any kind of gift. It just made sense to me. To me, it just was common sense. If people were going to be taking these products, I was selling nutritional supplements. If they're going to take them, they need to know what they're taking. So I'd get on stage and I'd teach it. And I did it really well, and I did it really funny. And, and people just absolutely loved it. And I sold a ton of product, and I didn't understand it. And people would come to me and say, like, I've listened to some of this stuff for years and I've never gotten it. Now I get it. So I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. I didn't really think about it. But because I didn't understand it, in my organization, I had a person in my organization that was upline from me who kept telling me to stop doing it. They kept saying, you've got to stop doing that. It's not duplicatable. And if you do that, you're not going to be able to grow business. You have to stop teaching and you've got to start recruiting. And so big decision number one I made was, well, I'm getting the heck out of this industry, because what I love to do is teach. And if I'm being told I can't teach, then I'm not going to do this. And I literally faded away. And I'm talking faded away from like $6,000 a month and hundreds and hundreds of people in my organization. And I walked away from it because I thought, if I can't do what I love, I'm not going to do this, right? But I didn't understand that I had a gift in teaching. The other place it surfaced for me was as a nurse. when I worked my first 8 years in nursing, I was working in a unit where I got to do teaching every day. It was all about teaching the clients, teaching their families, plugging them into resources. I was lit up. I loved it. And I think I talk about this on the audio program, that my girlfriend then said to me, you know, you're not being challenged. If you enjoy it that much, you know, you're too comfortable. You need to get out of there and you need to challenge yourself, and you should come and work in the intensive care unit. And I went in the intensive, and I thought, well, everybody knows better about my life than me because, you know, she was, I don't know, I just thought she was smarter than me. So if she told me I should do that, I should do that. So I left a unit that I loved working in, and I went to the intensive care unit, and I spent 16 years, and I'm telling you guys, it just about killed me because I could not teach. So because I couldn't do any teaching at work because the patients are in a coma on life support, and the families aren't in a place to really get taught much when their family member is in ICU, I then started doing teaching at night in my network. I started doing a network marketing business because I saw an opportunity where I could do something I loved. So I didn't understand the concept. So the personal impact it had on me, it totally changed my life. Every single decision I make now is based on my gifts. Every single decision I make when it comes to making choices in my life. Not about buying groceries, obviously not those types of decisions, but I'm talking about when people ask me to do something, would I get involved in something? I now know I can say no and be doing them a favor. Whereas because of my personality of wanting to please people, wanting to say yes, saying yes out of obligation, saying yes for all the wrong reasons, I used to say yes to things that I should have said no to. Then I would spend my time trying to figure out how to get out of it because I hated doing it. So once I got real clarity, then I was able to say yes to the things that I knew not only would I love doing and feel on purpose, but that I would be effective at, extraordinarily effective at doing it. And then I could say comfortably yes to the things I knew I could do and no to the things. And that for me personally has been like just an unbelievable place of clarity. It helps me make decisions. Having said that interesting, I always call it kind of a cosmic joke in the Sacred Gifts program, the fact that we can be so good at doing something for somebody else and yet not so good at doing it for ourselves. I also take that into consideration. I've been in positions where I have been highly organized, highly administrative, all about systems and structures when it comes to helping somebody else. And then in my own business, just literally feeling it suck the life out of me at sitting there trying to figure out systems and structures in my own business. So it was having an understanding of all of this has just allowed me to, you know, just kind of move forward in my life with ease and grace, and knowing and understanding that being able to make these big decisions without having any of the my girlfriend calls it the itty bitty shitty committee, which just makes me laugh, right? The stuff going on inside here, I can just block that out because I know that I know in my heart what I'm doing is in alignment with my gifts, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how about you, Annette?
I would echo that for sure. So for me, I learned about Sacred Gifts back in 2008, and at the time, I've been a coach since 2003, so I have committed myself to helping people to figure out what they want, to get clarity, to move forward, to build their businesses. And I had built a practice with 8 coaches on my team and put together a system and a program, and we were leveraging it and building this thing out, but I didn't know what my gifts were. When I was introduced to the Sacred Gifts program and I learned about this gift called the Sacred Gift of Planning, and I scored a 15 out of 15 on it, and there was a video in the workshop of this guy juggling, and everything inside of me lit up. I knew that was the most active gift in my life at that time. And I felt freed knowing that information. I felt freedom knowing that my job was really to delegate, negotiate, mediate, and put these things together and know what needed to happen when, and that was my job. And to align with visionaries and to align with people with the gift of service. And there were some gifts that I was still discerning, and you know, do I have teaching or do I have facilitation? It's one or the other. I'm not really sure because I'm leading a small group, but you know, what are the distinctions? And so it took me some time to really discern those gifts and feel them out and test them and try them in different places in my life. But I would echo what Monique said, is that having the awareness and understanding of what sacred gifts are and what the signs are and what the clues are, what to look for, helped me to make decisions in my life that aligned with more of the spirit of who I am, so that I could move forward and feel on purpose in each decision, and also say no to the things that just didn't feel right. And it happens all the time. It still happens to this day. So for me, from a personal place, being a coach and then becoming certified as a guide, now I can look for and hear clues of sacred gifts in my clients. We work through the program together, and then we go on to build whatever it is that they want to do next once they've discovered their gifts. So it gives us a foundation, a place to work from together. And I find that extremely not just valuable, but it's affirming. And I know that the feedback that I'm getting is that it's helping other people in their lives, and it just has made such a difference for me. So yeah, that's probably all I want to say about that.
That's awesome. So did
Yeah,
you
it is
guys,
awesome.
well, when you guys like made that transition, like obviously it led to transitions in your life, right? That
Yes.
you never knew existed before. And it just
Yes.
fell into place easier?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I left nursing, I don't know that I would say that I'm pretty positive I would not have left nursing had I have not understood this. So by 2008, when I retired from nursing, I absolutely knew that even though I didn't know what it was going to look like, I knew that I could feel it was like a pull from the center of inside of me. It was a feeling of this, there's a potentiality within me that I hadn't tapped into. That's all. The only way I can describe it is and I would say that to people, I'd say, I feel like there's this potential within me that I haven't yet met, and I have no idea what that is. Later, what it was a gift of encouragement, a gift of challenge, a gift of wise counsel, that all of them ended up putting me in this position of mentoring people one-on-one, which I wouldn't even have been able to imagine that at a different time in my life. So the sense of potentiality was all I was feeling. But as I opened up, and I took a huge leap of faith to leave nursing. I mean, nobody does that at 30 years of nursing, when you're, X amount of years away from a pension and all of those things. And I left it, and I took a big leap of faith, but I just knew that there was this thing inside of me. And because at that point I had a complete understanding of sacred gifts, and I had been immersed into it for, at that point, like 6 years, I was able to take the leap of faith, knowing that that the next right thing would show up. And I didn't take a single coaching course. I am not a certified coach. I have not taken coaching courses or anything. I am totally the work that I do is led by my gifts. I've never taken a course in teaching or being a teacher. Everything I do that I do exceptionally well is a result of my gifts. And I tell people, you have a master's degree that comes with these gifts, like it allows you to do extraordinary things. However, for sure, we can go to school and we can get training and skill sets and licensing on things that are of interest to us. And typically the interest will be driven by the gifts that are already inside of you. So if somebody is feeling really compelled to go and do healing courses, or to become a massage therapist, or they want to be a chiropractor or a doctor or a nurse, or there's something that's pulling them in that direction, or they want to do hands-on Reiki work, I assure you, nobody's going to be going into that unless they typically have the gifts within them that already support that drive. So I often hear people say, oh, well, I do this because I went to school and I learned that. I'd say, you probably went to school because you already had that gift in you. And that's why you chose those courses or that area of interest, because it somehow would allow you to express that gift. And the people who don't do that, the people who choose a direction in life that is not aligned with their gifts, but they choose it because their parents told them to, because they saw somebody else do it, because they thought it will make them a successful, a good income and that type of thing. And if they're not able to use their gifts at all in any way doing it, they will either go find something else to do on their time off where they can express their gifts, whether that's volunteering or making jewelry or doing something, or they will be really unhappy and not so pleasant to be around. Right? Because then they're spending their days, and I mean, I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity. I have certainly, over 30 years of working as a nurse, I've had the opportunity to work with people in every level in the medical field of, you just know there isn't a single thing they are doing. Either they're not using their gifts, or what they're doing is absolutely not meaningful to them at all. And it's just really not particularly pleasant because they're doing it, and you can tell they're doing it for the paycheck and for no other reason. There's no passion. There's no drive, there's no dedication to excellence, whatever it is. It's just kind of an empty work. So,
Monique, I have a question. How did you come up with the gift being 24 of them?
Yes, that's a great question. So in the original program that I studied with, so in the Christian faith, it's quite interesting, within the big sort of Christianity, there are so many different denominations of Christianity. So in the Baptist faith, they have a program about gifts, and they have 11 gifts. And then there's another program that teaches 7 motivational gifts. And then there's another program that talks about there are this many practical gifts and so many spiritual gifts. And then there's another program. So in the training that I did at the Catherine of Siena Institute, which is a Catholic-based program, they taught about 26 different gifts. So they trained us on 26 gifts. There are 2 of the gifts that the training was very, very Catholic doctrine. And so 2 of the gifts, because I knew the calling for me was to create a very highly practical program that was not religious based, 2 of the gifts that they taught, it just didn't fit for me to be able to teach on them. The other ones were all very recognizable in everyday life, except maybe foresight. Not a lot of us hang out and know prophets, right? But I'm going to be adding some more gifts to the program. It's become more evident, and I have literally prayed on this and sat with this for many years now around dance. One of them is dance and performance, something to do with performance. And the other one is, I've heard it referred to as the gift of mirth. And I can't remember in what teachings. They weren't biblical teachings, but I came across this and I thought that was really interesting. And I've had many people in the last 15 years say to me, what about humor? Like, what about when people literally they can make you laugh to the point of healing you, or that, so the number of gifts is not what's important, because I believe as time changes and with evolution and change, for example, technology, look at the miraculous things that people have been able to develop in technology. I have a client in Greece, and we always marvel at she's an M1 client, as a matter of fact, that we always marvel at the fact that, she's in Greece, I'm over here, and in real live time, you guys were doing this. Like, this is remarkable what technology is, and it comes under the gift of craftsmanship. But that would not have been something talked about, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So the gifts may evolve. There are certain gifts that may not end up being applicable, or we may not see evidence of anymore, but they were needed at a time in the past, right? And that maybe now they're not, maybe they're just not needed, but there are other new gifts that may come forward. So the number 24 is what we started with, but it may change, Claudia. Dan, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment. I think because I just started it, it seems fairly straightforward so far. I just finished kind of calculating everything here and inputting it into the Sacred Gifts key. And it's interesting, that's for sure.
Okay, so give us I'm going to ask each of you to do this. So give us your top 3, kind of the top 3 highest scores. Even though they may or may not be your gifts, you'll learn more as you go through the program. But what are your top 3 scores right now?
Okay, so the top 3 I have here, I scored 12 on wise counsel and craftsmanship.
Okay.
And then the next one was a 9, and I actually had 2 under there, and that was service and knowledge.
Okay, great, thank you. And which one of those, when you look at that, which one is kind of is there any big surprise for you there?
You know what? Honestly, no. It's not a big surprise. Because craftsmanship, I've always grown up in a very handy family, hands-on. I'm an electrician by trade, so that's not a big surprise. Wise counsel, I always do like talking with people and trying to find solutions to whatever problems they have. I actually caught myself doing that today with my coworker that I was with. So, the knowledge. I always do like to learn and better myself. I always feel like you have to keep growing, right? And then the service, I didn't look the service one up, so I don't have 100% sure what that one means.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll learn about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So thanks, Dan. So you made a great point when you said the gift of craftsmanship is no surprise to me. I grew up in a family of, crafts, and we were all, craftsmen people. We were always doing that. And I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. Okay. Or electrician. So what I want to say about that, and this is important for all of you to understand, you could have a gift of craftsmanship and be raised in a family where nobody had a gift of craftsmanship. Okay. So it's not because I was raised in a family where that was prevalent that I have a gift of craftsmanship. If you're born with a gift of craftsmanship within you, you may, and many people do, end up in a family where there's not a single person who has a bone in them or a cell in them that drives them in that direction at all. There's a great movie out called Joy that came out a few years ago, and it's a fabulous movie to watch about a true story of a woman who, as a little girl, she built models, and she built I think it was like a whole farmyard of fences and houses out of paper and little animals and everything, right? And then she had a gift of craftsmanship. It showed up in her as a child. Like Annette has a daughter like this, like just remarkable things.
And I don't.
Yeah, and Annette doesn't have it, and it's remarkable what her daughter can do. And in this movie, Joy, she then becomes inspired later in life. She sees that there is no mop that does a good job to clean a floor. And she's the one who created the magic mop. And when you watch the movie, you see how in her mind, she witnesses broken glass in a boat. She drops a glass of wine in the boat, and then somebody's wiping up the glass and the boat and the wine, and it's making a mess. And these ideas just start to downpour into her. And then she's sketching, on a napkin. All of a sudden she's sketching. And then she starts making it. And then she made millions and millions and millions of dollars selling a magic mop on info commercials on television. Like, it's a brilliant movie. And now she spends her time and her money. She made so much money. She spends her time and money supporting people who come to her that have an idea that has come in of an invention that could be created that could make a difference in the world, and she funds it. If they feel it's a good idea, she funds it, and they get the product to market, right, for these people. So the fact that you have a gift of craftsmanship it might seem to you that it seems like it makes sense because you're in a family like that. But Dan, I can assure you there are people like Annette, that somebody has a gift of craftsmanship nobody else in the family does, and nobody can figure out why the kid is interested in building blocks, and why is the kid interested in wanting to draw when the parents don't have any of that in them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can just add to something, knowing about gifts, because it sort of relates back to the question you had asked, Susan, knowing about what sacred gifts are and which gifts you have and what might be present in other people has helped me to foster those gifts in my children when I see them, and to encourage them to live those gifts. So for example, my daughter, with the gift of craftsmanship, I can't tell you how many pens she has. Every pen that she sees is different to her, and they're all special. And she has special places for them, and a whole cupboard filled with different papers and different fabrics. And she saved up money to buy a sewing machine when she was 10, and she sews clothes for her dolls. And and for me, not having that gift, it's a big mess, you know, because she's also a kid. So she's not as good at picking up after herself. But because I know that this is a sacred gift, and because I know it has been born into her, it is part of her. It's part of her spirit and part of her soul. And I actually get goosebumps on my neck when I say it that way. This is something that she is meant to do on this planet. And so it's my job, I feel, as her mom, to create that space for her to express those gifts. And so she has, like I said, a whole cupboard in the living room that we bought at IKEA full of her stuff. And she brings it out and puts it on the dining room table, and she does all her stuff. And then we're working on her cleaning up after herself. She's getting better. She's getting older. But that is what I can do for her as someone in her family, to love her and show her that her gifts matter. And wouldn't it be great for all kids to grow up knowing that they have a space to be who they are? My other girl has a sacred gift of service, and she is the first person through the door after school saying, "Mommy, can I help you with something?" And I have something she can help me with. There's always something to do, right? So fostering those gifts, making other people in your world feel seen and heard and recognized, and acknowledging those gifts in other people can be a huge gift to them to go out and do something else in the world. So yeah, it's magnificent, really, when you think of it that way.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I remember going through those, and I would try to pinpoint people in my life that had those particular gifts as I was going through all 24. And it did help me understand even people that were in my life in the past and are no longer in my life, like kind of like what their sacred gift was. And then it helps you understand them. And yes. I think that you should add that one of dancing and performing, because my daughter Emily, that's just what she does. It's just her thing. But I just kind of knew that when she was little, and so I've always supported that in her. And she's just this little butterfly. And when she didn't want to go to college, because that was kind of like, you know, this square that she would not be able to thrive in that arena. So yeah, she's just doing that thing right now. So I really appreciate this.
It's so beautiful, because the fostering of gifts in children is so powerful. It'll change the future. And I, you know, we've been asked many times to create a program for little kids, and we have, you know, people, they want their children to know their gifts. However, I have always been very clear that the parents need to know, because if we were to empower children with what their gifts are, and they were learning about exactly what their gifts are, and they're going home and they're not getting the support from their parents, that's going to set them up for failure and frustration. There's nothing worse than to motivate somebody with knowing what their gifts are and that they can't get mobilized with it. It's the mobilization that makes the difference, not just the motivation of, oh my gosh, I have these gifts, but it can feel very constricting if you feel like, oh, I have these gifts and I understand them, but I have no idea what to do. And that's why Annette and I decided in this offer that we were going to take it one step further, and for those who want to, that we would offer like one-on-one sessions, because we understand it can be frustrating. It's like, okay, great, I've got all these gifts. Well, what do I do now, right? And that we have to get people mobilized. And with children, it's great for them to have an understanding that they have gifts within them, and maybe understand how it feels when you're doing something you love, but certainly not to be naming gifts in children unless parents are on board. Because imagine a child going home and saying, you know, I have this gift and I know I want to do art and I want to design dresses for Barbies. And then you've got mom and dad going, no. You know, you're going to go to university and you're going to get a good career like we did, and you should become an accountant because you'll make good money. And we loved being accountants, and right, that whole thing. So it's super powerful for what the story Annette tells about what she has done to support her daughter in her gifts is life-changing for children. And it will change the world when kids are allowed to grow up and literally just be in their gifts, right? So Claudia, how about you? What were the top three that you have, or 3 or 4 that you've identified?
So the number 1, I scored 13 in planning. Then 12 on extraordinary trust. And then 11 on wise counsel.
Okay, and what kind of work do you do, Claudia?
I do commercial real estate, and I raise money for companies that want to expand.
Okay, and are they, so those are two separate things you do?
Well, most of the companies that want to expand have a real estate component, so I do coaching to them so that they can actually get the equity that they're looking for.
Okay, and so in the coaching that you do to get the equity they're looking for, would you say that you function kind of as a consultant?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know that I've ever met an effective consultant on this planet who does not have the gift of wise counsel. That's what a consultant is. Consultant is a name that's been given to somebody who has a gift of wise counsel in a particular area. So, you know, if you're consulting, it's almost always, if you're effectively consulting and people are seeking you out to consult, because a consultant goes in, listens to the problem, right? Listens to, okay, what's happening? What's the problem? What is it that you need? And through a gift of wise counsel is able to help come up with a creative solution that's going to serve that particular problem that they have. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that really opened up my view to, because what I like to see is I like to see companies that are growing and expanding through helping them set up systems, because everybody needs money, you know, to expand their business, but not everybody's ready for it. So this gave me more of an idea that I need to concentrate into setting up the systems to help the companies grow more than just raise the money.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Like, look at that. So you identify gift and planning, which is all about systems and structures. So
Yes.
you're already seeing, great, it's great to help raise the money for them, but if they don't have the systems and structures in place, so now your consulting can expand to include that, and it completely aligns with one of your sacred gifts.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Susan, remind us of the top ones that came up for you.
Do you guys ever get ones that tie?
Yes, all the time.
Oh, okay. Because my number 14 was writing, vision, and knowledge.
Yeah.
And 13, I got encouragement and wise counsel.
Yeah.
And 12, I got teaching and extraordinary trust.
Right. Yeah. So it's very common, and also there isn't any set number. Sometimes the discernment process is being able to know that I'm highly effective at doing this, but it kind of sucks the life out of me, and that sometimes can park it as to whether or not it's a gift. You just kind of set it aside. We're always looking for those elements of not only am I, pretty effective at it or extraordinarily effective at it, but how does it make me feel when I'm doing it? So it's the effectiveness out in the world. The way to really know if it's a gift or not is never going to be an intellectual process, ever. It is not a process that you can do in your mind or on paper. This process that we take you through is an intellectual process to be able to draw some logical conclusions. And then the way you're going to know if it's a sacred gift or not is not by whether you think it is, it's by how effective you are out in the world using it. And that's why we ask you to look for feedback and listen for feedback that's coming back from people. What are people saying? Or what's the effectiveness of what I'm doing? And it may not even come back from people. You might be doing work that is exceptional, and it may not be that you can get direct feedback in what you're doing, but that you know in your heart of hearts that what you are doing is exceptionally good. Right? I mean, you guys understand what I'm saying. So it's not always about just people giving you feedback. It's that you know what you do is exceptionally good. I worked with Annette at a company a while back, and I was exceptionally good at running events and putting in systems in place and structures and running an events exceptionally well. Not everybody liked working with me. The people that were being given direction from me loved working with me. They were clear. The system was there. They knew what to do. The people who weren't as committed to that, they didn't like it because I was asking more of them than they maybe wanted to give, right? Because I had a pretty high set bar, and I could see what we needed to do to run an event extremely smoothly. And people whose hearts aren't into it, or they just kind of don't want to give that much, they may not have liked working with me. So it's not, the feedback may not always be, oh, everybody likes working with you, but everybody would agree that the job was very effective and well done, right? Yeah.
That's a really good point.
What was the punchline there? I missed a brief part of that. You said it's not so much about.
So so the feedback, like we encourage you guys to listen to feedback you get from people, but the feedback may not always be, oh, I like you, or it could be they don't like you. Maybe they don't like you. There's a lot of people that probably don't like me, but that what you are doing is effective. The feedback is towards the effectiveness of what you are doing, not whether or not you have a personality that they particularly like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my question is it your opinion that if you're not shown effectiveness, that it's not a gift?
There's 4 signs that we look for. We're not ever looking for just one. We're looking for effectiveness. Well, if you're doing something and you're not effective at it over and over again, and you're continually doing something that you're not effective at, but you enjoy doing it, I would say keep doing it. If you're looking for the signs of a sacred gift being in place, you're looking for not only if you're effective at it, but how it makes you feel, right? How it makes you feel. And you're also listening for the feedback that you're getting from people. And you're always looking for repeated patterns. So if I was to say to Dan, do you think there's been evidence from the time you were a little boy that you liked to tinker with things?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Right. So that makes it easier when Dan is saying, well, do I really have a gift of sacred gifts, or is it because I had people in my family, or maybe I had a dad or a mom that had a gift of sacred gifts, or a sacred gift of craftsmanship. So we were always, given things to build. Dan is the one who can really look back on his life and know if there's been a pattern of it, as well as how he's using it now, in his work that he's doing as an electrician. So that's why we look for more than one thing. Scoring. The score is not the first thing we look at. The scores that are zeros help us eliminate. The scores that are low help us eliminate the ones that are probably not gifts. But even then, what if you had a gift that was dormant? What if you did this and you're 20 years old and you get a 0 in something, or a 2, because you've never even had the opportunity or the opportunity to even know if you have that gift, because you haven't been yet put in a position to find out, right? So that's why scores are not the first thing we look at. Scores help us have clues as to where we want to start looking, but then we look at, how do you feel when you're doing it? What's the feedback you're getting? How effective are you at doing what you're doing? And then what are the repeated patterns looking back over your life? If a gift up until now in your life has been dormant, you can't look back for repeated patterns. There isn't going to be one, but it's unlikely in your age group. Okay, like Dan, how old are you?
I am 32.
Yeah, so there's enough life experience there. But if I was doing this with an 18, 19, 20-year-old, I would not be looking for repeated patterns necessarily being the biggest clue I'd be looking for. But for me in teaching, I was playing school. I'm not kidding you guys. I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. And whenever the neighbors came over, as often as I could, I'd say, let's play school. And I would get logs and make, seats for them to sit on. And I would go get the blackboard that we had in the playhouse, and I would get the chalk, and I would be the teacher. I never, ever was the student. I never said, who wants to be the teacher? I was the teacher. And I created the assignments, and I gave them things to do, and they all did it, and they loved it, and they'd come back and play school with me again the next week, right? So when I look back for patterns, there's clear indication of a gift of teaching from the time that I was really young. So we're looking for more than one thing, not just effectiveness, Brad. So Brad, have you had a chance to kind of stick those numbers next to names yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so give us some of the top ones there.
All right. My 15s are hospitality and compassion. My 14s are challenge and craftsmanship.
Okay.
My 13s are teaching and encouragement.
Okay, so when you look at those, are there some of them make sense to you?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Good. Any surprises? Well, you haven't heard the descriptions yet, so.
No, but while you're on me, I hope I can ask some questions, because I don't know if I'll get another opportunity, so I'm going to kind of sneak in here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I tried to raise my hand, but I don't think it worked.
Oh.
So I don't know if there's a gift of questions. When you open it up for questions, I'm like, oh, wow, this is going to be tough for me because I have about 300 and I've only been through session 1.
Right.
And so I think the most important, as I look through my notes and where I am right now, I didn't so much, the reason that I am hoping for, well, the reason that I bought your program, and I love it so far, there's a lot of great stuff. In fact, I made some notes of things that I wanted to compliment you on. What I was hoping to get, and I don't know if it's there, and my question is will I be able to learn about the mobilization? I already feel pretty confident about my gifts prior to the, I don't know that sometimes there's different terminology and different things, but with the track 3 and to feel on purpose, the feel on purpose formula in 2 and 4 is to know, know what meaning to me this is and how to use. And then 4 is use the right vehicle. Does your program offer those 2 things, to future information, education on how to use the right vehicle, how to identify the right vehicle, what is the right vehicle, know what meaningful, know how it's meaningful to me and how to use it, specifically how to use.
So that's a great question. So in the Feel on Purpose formula, the program that you're doing, the digital online program is really focused on that first piece, the discovering, first of all, what your gifts are. Okay. If you are not clear on what your passion is, what's meaningful to you, that's why it makes more sense for us to work with people one-on-one after you've done the program. If you're needing more to plug all the elements into that Feel on Purpose formula, to get clarity on what the right vehicle is for you, to get clarity on what is really meaningful for you, Brad. Is it people? Is it animals? Is it the environment? Like, which is it? Name one of the 3.
Well, I know what's meaningful to me. I want to know how to pack my gunpowder into a focused instrument.
Right. Yeah. So that requires more coaching. That's more of an element of coaching, where then by, taking the elements that you do know that you're clear on, and then it sounds like maybe are you referring to like business coaching? Like, how do I turn what I love and what my gifts are into a way to make money or something like that?
Yeah. For me, this gets down to society is based off of trading value. And so I used to think that I didn't have value. And then I found out like, wow, I do have value. And these are what I bring. And this is how I can add value to society. And so that's the quest that I'm at is, taking the gifts. And again, I don't know if I use the right terms or, our language is the same, but my focus is to creating a vehicle.
Yeah. And are you wanting to create a business?
Yeah, I want to make money. Yeah.
Okay. But are you wanting to create a business as opposed to get a job?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely on the entrepreneur side of things. Although I'm not opposed to a job within an entrepreneur umbrella.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm hearing is, what your gifts are, what's meaningful to you, that you want to build a business or find a job within the entrepreneurial so what is it you're not clear on then?
Oh, that's a great question. So, boy, that's interesting. So what I'm not clear on is how to package my gifts in a marketable way that where people want to pull out their credit card.
Right.
That's to me is what a vehicle is. Maybe I'm not using the right terminology, but the, that I guess maybe I misunderstood what you meant by vehicle in number 4.
Yeah, well, a vehicle is a job, full-time job, part-time job, volunteering, owning your own business, having a practice, being on stage, whatever. Those are vehicles. So you've identified your vehicle is business. What I'm hearing is you don't know how to effectively package up your service or product and then deliver it, market it, brand it, get it out there to the right. Okay, that is absolutely 100% not me, Brad. Not.
I'm in the wrong group. It was
You're
nice.
in the wrong. Sorry, Brad. If I had one of those buzzers, bah, yeah. So, no, however, having said that, yeah, but having said that, Annette has, resources in those ways. And Annette built businesses. Annette's, husband is an entrepreneur. Annette's an entrepreneur. Annette knows how to build business. She knows how to brand. She knows how to market. Like, that's Annette's, niche. So no, this program was certainly never marketed to the how to build a successful business is not what the program's about. But the other elements.
Just to clarify, that's not how I worded it. How I worded it was how to use my gifts in a way to I mean, it's going to be essentially the same thing. I wasn't expecting, you to, okay. Anyway, all right.
But you seem to have, Brad, you seem to have clarity on what your gifts are. You said, I feel like I know what my gifts are. I know what's meaningful to me, you said, right? Like, what's meaningful to you.
Yeah, I feel like enough to get started. I'm certainly, that's always an interesting balance. New levels, new devils. But yeah, I have enough to get going.
Yeah. So there you go. So you get going, Brad.
Get going. Okay.
Brad, get going. So that brings up the point, though. I know we have to wrap up. So Annette, maybe I'll hand it over to you, and you want to talk about what are the two other things that we do offer that might be a fit for some of the folks listening.
Yeah, so a couple of things that we can definitely do moving forward. If you are interested in getting some additional help, some one-on-one help, Monique and I both have the same hourly rate. It's $149 per hour Canadian, and we can help you in different ways, right? Monique is brilliant at helping you to get clarity, laser focus, break through the barriers, get through the poop that might be getting in the way of you achieving what it is you want, any of that mind stuff. When Monique and I talk, every single time we talk, I go a level deeper, and one more layer of my onion is peeled off. So that's where Monique is really brilliant. If you're interested, more like what you were saying, Brad, if you need help figuring out the structure for your business, you need to do branding, you need to figure out who your audience is and what you offer and why they should trust you and how you want to present yourself to the world. Those are the types of things that I work on with my clients one-on-one. But we have 61 guides. I mean, it's not just Monique and I in this tribe. There are 61 guides around the globe who are available to work one-on-one with clients to go through the program. From a coaching perspective, though, if you're a coach and you want to become one of our guides and take people through this process like you've been going through with us, you can also become a certified guide. And the next program, when is it? I'm just looking at my other screen. Is it fall, Monique?
Yeah, I think we're starting the third Tuesday of September for 14 weeks.
Yeah, so there's an opportunity to become a guide as well, if it's something that calls to you and it's a tool that you want in your toolbox. Coaches, consultants, HR professionals, counselors, these are all the types of people that become guides and help people to first identify their gifts, and then they offer their programs and services afterwards. So that's an opportunity too, and the cost for that program is $24.97. Am I right? Or $24.95? Either way, I'm off by $2. So that's also an opportunity for you as we move forward.
Good. So any other burning question before we wrap up?
I just wanted to ask, in the 14 weeks, is that done like in a Zoom session, or do you have to be live someplace, or how does that training go?
Okay, great question, Susan. So it's exactly like this. This is exactly how we do it. We use Zoom. We meet every Tuesday, starting whatever the start date is, September 21st, let's say, on a Tuesday. And then we meet every Tuesday at noon Pacific. And we do it on Zoom for 14 weeks in a row. Each session is 90 minutes, a 90-minute training per session. And then it's recorded as well, so that people, if they miss, obviously we have people that can't make every 14 in a row, but they're all recorded so that they can then review them later. And we take 8 people. Right now, we've been limiting it to 8 in the session, and because you see how quickly time goes, right, with a small group. We dive into the gifts much deeper. So part of the advantages of certification is people get real clarity on their own gifts as well, while they're also learning how to use our material to guide other people through their gifts as well. We go through 2 different modules. And then the 14 weeks after that, there's practicum time as well. So you start working with clients, your friends, your family, whoever, taking them through the process. Within week number 2 of the training, you're already working with somebody. So because I'm a teacher, and I can't do it like, an intellectual process. So this is, you learn something, you go and you implement it. You learn something, you go and implement it, so that you're really working with people right away. But it's Zoom. I love Zoom. I mean, it works great, right? Which is like we're all right here together. Yeah.
Do you guys, like, knowing and working with so many people who have such different sacred gifts, do you know people like, how you and Annette hooked up because you've got one gift, Monique, and she compliments you? Do you turn people on to somebody like, I need an Annette?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So,
Yes.
so now, you know what? When you're
$149 an hour and she's yours.
when you're setting your intentions, your goals, you're praying, whatever it is that you do, that you're putting out there to the universe, now you've got some new language to use, Susan, that please, I need somebody with that gift of planning and structure and business and whatever, right? So you now know what you're looking for, which is really great. And the first step to attracting what it is that you want is to know what it is you want. So you're already on your way, Susan.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree.
I have a question, Monique. Do I understand that we're born with these gifts and what you teach, and so there's a limit to what gifts we can have?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's not so much a limit. I would not say there's a limit, but they are already there when you're born. How much, you know what, there's probably 80% of the population who live their lives and never tap into their sacred gifts. They function from a level of skill or being unconscious. They're doing, their only motivation to do a job is to get a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever. So there's a lot of people that are functioning out there quite okay, without necessarily being tapped into their gifts. So I'm not going to say that it's limited by what's put in you when you're born. I'm going to say that's the evidence I've seen. I've studied this for 15 years. That's what evidence shows. The evidence shows that the gifts that people end up manifesting in life, there has been evidence of them since they were a very young age. And unless the gift has been dormant for a particular reason, but it's just based on evidence.
What evidence are you referring to?
The evidence of seeing evidence of a gift when they were young, like Dan saying that, he's been tinkering since he was a little boy, or me talking about having evidence of a gift of teaching since I was very young. I watch children now so closely. I have a grandson, so I watch little kids and I watch the encouragers. I watch I had a daughter with a gift of hospitality. I have no gift of hospitality. It drove me nuts. She was always bringing kids home, and I was like, stop bringing all these kids home. And she'd bring home kids. She'd bring home animals. She was always bringing these, and it was just drove me nuts. And I did not have a gift of hospitality. I didn't understand it. I didn't nurture it here. I would be like, stop it. Go play at your friend's house. Quit bringing them over here. Because I didn't understand it. So there's typically, we can typically kind of see the evidence. Now, having said that, Brad, I don't teach this in the program quite readily. I do to my more advanced students, or sometimes the clients I'm working with one-on-one. I do believe that when we clearly show an indication of willingness to be in our gifts, and to show up in our gifts, I have seen some evidence of people suddenly showing evidence of a gift they've never shown evidence of before, and all of a sudden at the age of 55 or 60, they find themselves in a position of doing something quite phenomenal, quite extraordinary, and from that point forward it keeps showing up. So whether that's a dormant gift that's been in them and there was no evidence of it, or whether the universe somehow just knows who they can use after a while, when you're really open to, I was telling you guys last time that Marianne Williamson prayer of please use me. When you start living from that place of, look, universe, just use me, whatever my gifts are, let's just get at it and get going. I have seen evidence of people finding themselves in remarkable situations where amazing things are happening and they get used. They do get used, and gifts are showing up in them that they didn't see evidence of before. And that's one of those unexplained aspects. And because there is a mystery to this and there's an aspect of it that's unexplained, it's my job to say I can't explain it all.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're all on a quest of trying to explain.
Yeah.
Explainable sometimes. Yeah. I just saw like gifts. I think it's neat how they're given as a child, because like oftentimes children can receive things easier than an adult. And so, but it's neat that when you put it in the frame of a person saying, I'm ready to receive, then they sometimes can be used, and then they get used.
Oh, absolutely, because there's more evidence of people blocking their gifts than there are of people using them. You know what? I could talk to anybody. I can talk to anybody, you guys. You put anybody on the phone with me, and I will ask them 3 or 4 questions, and I will find out what's burning in their heart. And they've known it for a long time, and they're not doing it. That is always evidence of that they've got a gift within them. They know what they want to do. They know what's meaningful to them, and they believe they cannot do it, or they believe they can't do it and make money, or they believe they can't do it and be successful, or they believe they're not worthy of being able to do it, or they believe that there's no way that that gift would have been put in them. I see it and hear it all the time when it comes to the gift of healing. Well, why would I be given that gift? And that's because people have an idea in their mind that certain gifts are more special, more holy, more spiritual. It's all nonsense. They're all the same. They're just different. They're just different. And if you have a gift of healing, then go do that. And it's your thought that maybe you don't think you're worthy because Jesus had the gift of healing, and why should you? That's all just made up stuff, right? When you understand what your gifts are, they're all the same. Just get out there and do it. You know, people would be so much happier, but I'd say most of the people I work with, they know what their gifts are. They don't have the language for it, but they can tell me within 20 minutes, but they've got all these reasons why they can't do it.
And it's always fear-based, right? Of not being good enough or worthy or something.
It can be fear-based. It can be generational-based. It can be culturally based. It can be ancestrally based. It can be past life-based. It can be, there's so many factors. I don't spend any time trying to figure out anymore because it's so complex. We're too complex to figure all that out. Instead, it's just, look, what can we do right now? What do you want to do about it? You know, if you want to do something about it, let's go. If you don't, then continue doing what you're doing. And when you stay unhappy long enough, you'll phone me again.
When you stay unhappy long enough, is that what you said?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Then they'll call me back.
You teach that in your program on getting over those obstacles?
Not in this program. That's all work that I do. That's all work. This program is exactly what you're doing. The program Discover Your Sacred Gifts is what you're doing right now. Everything else that I'm referring to is work that Annette and I do separate from that.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to as in your additional programs, you help people overcome their blocks, whatever they may be.
I am a bona fide shift disturber. That's what I am. I am a shift disturber, and I have a gift of challenge, and I've stopped questioning it. I push people's buttons every day. I get cursed every day. People call me, they swear at me, whatever, because I push all their buttons, and they know it. People know if they work with me, they're not going to get away with anything.
Wonderful.
I love it.
Great. Okay, you guys, listen, it's just been lovely getting to know you guys, and thank you for showing up over again and coming back after the kind of the fail of the last week's call. But Annette's going to get the recording out to you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to work with some of you further. Annette is staying, really connected with Rock and Alex over there, and we've got some fun things on the back burner that you will hopefully be able to see come forward.
Yeah.
Say anything more than that?
No, thank you all for coming. This has been such a pleasure tonight. I've enjoyed myself.
Me too.
Awesome.
Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Yeah, this is an awesome program. Very nice.
It really is. Thank you so much. And everybody's questions was really awesome for me too, to hear the answers. So thank you.
Good. Thank you all. All right.
Good.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Already.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.